The multi-quarterback offense. You take a guy who's a dual threat quarterback. You take a guy who's maybe not getting the play as a starting quarterback, and he's a dual threat guy. So a dual threat quarterback could line up at wide receiver, right? A dual threat quarterback could line up maybe at scat back. Okay, I think Manziel maybe. Dual threat quarterback could line up maybe at like tight end, like maybe like Newton. Dual threat quarterback could line up maybe at wide out, like maybe like Mariota. Okay, so dual threat quarterback can line up multiple places. So maybe Robert Griffin can line up at wide receiver. Okay, so you have Cam Newton maybe line up at running back. Okay, or Cam Newton can line up at tight end. Okay, Mariota can line up at wide receiver. Okay, you have these dual threat quarterbacks on the field. You could have four quarterbacks out there at one time when you have these dual threat ones, these faster guys that can play these different positions: wide receiver, tight end, running back. Okay, and then you have this throw option, so you're just making your offense more varied. Now, if you're a team that didn't have a star quarterback, I might think about doing this. If you had Josh Allen, probably not. If you had Mahomes, yeah, probably not. But when you're below that in terms of the type of quarterback you have, I might consider throwing three of those guys out there at one time, and especially because their value, these guys are gettable, these guys are attainable in the marketplace. These guys might not even have a team, or they might be a backup on a team, and you start to think about how they can line up at different positions, maybe make an impact on the team. I even said how Newton, you can bring him in for that Tebow package the first year at Florida, when Tebow is like the backup basically, but he comes in for a lot of plays when they get in towards the goal line and things like that. So you have like the Tebow package potentially for a guy like Newton. Comes in, you get the ball to the 10-yard line. So the idea is maybe you have like a Cousins is like your main guy, gets you maybe like the 12-yard line. Boom, here comes Newton. He's kind of rushing at the goal line. Okay, jump over the line, QB draws, stuff like that with pass options, stuff like that. Manziel and stuff like that. If they did it, if they trained for it, whatever, they could obviously be a slot receiver, a little scat pack, stuff like that, moving around different formations. When these guys get to different realizations of what they can do on the field, Newton could even line up at tight end, if he wanted to. I would press it to him. I'd be like, you're not as talented or as good as Kelsey or Kittle. Aren't you just that same body type? Why not just do tight end and score 12 touchdowns every year? There's probably a way for different guys to work that in.